the way to hell. Never saw them when they're standing, never saw them when they fell. An ambulance rolled up, state trooper close behind. Tweeter took his gun away and messed up his mind. That undercover cop was left tied up to a tree near the souvenir stand by the abandoned factory. Next day the undercover cop was hot in pursuit. He was running on the left, didn't care about the loot. Janet told him many times, it was you to me who talk. In Jersey it's all legal as long as you don't get caught. And
If the evidence doesn't tell you, then you aren't determining what happened.
Now some very, very sketchy details reaching us here at Sky Central.
It is completely impossible to understand why this is happening and to figure out what in the world is going on.
We heard a big bang, and then we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
It blew up, a big explosion, people started running, it was just chaos everywhere. People jumping out, people just kept jumping and jumping and jumping.
Talk about it later.
Thank you all.
And now you have to move from talk about a possible accident to talk about something deliberate.
Let's go to President Bush right now.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
At 8:30 on this Tuesday morning, it's the 11th day of September, the year 2001. Al, it is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning, although it's not fall yet. Perfect fall morning, although it's not fall yet.
We heard a big bang, and then we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
It blew up, a big explosion, people started running, it was just chaos everywhere. People jumping out, people just kept jumping and jumping and jumping.
Perfect fall morning, although it's not fall yet.
Well, well, well. We are indeed back again. And would you, Adam and Eve it? Or is it Adam and Steve it today? What is it? The 11th of September? Do we know it? I think we do. It certainly rings a few bells or two, right? Do you know, and I've said it, I think I said it last year, for every year that goes by now, which we're on to the 22nd year, for maybe about the past 10, 11, 12 maybe years, as soon as I began to look into the Twin Towers in particular, I had a very, very bad feeling that no, something was not right. How anybody could look into it in great length and think any different from that is beyond me. Because after so many years, it's clearly undeniable, in my view, anyway. Completely undeniable. And more to that, it is actually blatant that it's not what they say, that the official narrative is not true. There is a lot more to it. And when you look at everything that's happened since the towers came down, it is quite staggering, to be honest. Everything that followed, the amount of people that seemingly have now died from the wars that stemmed from it. Where did they go to war? Iraq, Afghanistan? So it was Afghanistan that done it then, or Iraq, or was it Saudi Arabia? Of course, it was Bin Laden in a cave, right? On dialysis. Let's go with that. So tonight, I mean, there is a gigantic amount of stuff that we could get into. So I've kind of picked a few bits tonight that I reckon could take us probably 2 hours or maybe longer. And I have got a fantastic guest. I could potentially have two if they turn up. So our brother Scott's armor is currently not here, but he may turn up, right? So we'll keep the gate open for our Scottish brother, but we do have our English brother. So I'll bring him on, and then we'll have a look at some of the bits we're going to get into tonight, right? Hopefully. I mean, it's kind of like, well, what do you cover? How many years have we talked about it now? Where do you start? What do you cover that you've not already covered? So tonight, I think we've got stuff that we've not covered before, he says, right? So we'll see. So welcome to our English brother, Sensum. I'm sure everybody knows him, but good evening.
Hello, mate. And I apologise in the chat if you're expecting the top prize car, you know, the end of the game show car, and you ended up with Dusty Bin instead. I do apologise. How are you doing, mate? Hope everybody in the chat's well.
Yep, I'm good. Last week I started college, so it's been hectic, the student life. But do you know, it's quite laid back. But in saying that, I'm trying to do a lot more so I don't fail, because it's very complicated. Put it that way. When you get into the biology,
bioengineering,
yeah, the chemistry
is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you know what I mean, right? But I did ask Scott the last time he was on this time last year. I asked him if he recalls where he was that day, and if he wanted to share it, if he remembered. So I'm going to ask you the same question, if you recall it and what happened.
Yeah, I recall it distinctly. I was working for a firm down in Milton Keynes for my troubles. I was doing the weekly rat race, the Monday to Friday rat race, chasing the dollar, which, when I look back now, yeah, I was an idiot to myself. That era could have quite easily died on several occasions just falling asleep. I tell you what, because I used to do Monday to Friday, and Mondays going down was horrendous on the morning, and Fridays coming back on the night was horrendous. Oftentimes I used to pass myself on the way back. Do you know what I mean? It was very bad. But yeah, this morning, the room where we were, it was a little bit around the corner. So they used to have this sort of breakout area, a little sort of kitchen, and then adjacent to the kitchen there was a little breakout area, and they had a little small, I'd say 14-inch normal style TV, so not a flat screen, just a bog standard, TV on one of those telescopic arms. And I'm just there rattling away on an idiot's keyboard, and I sort of look around, and the whole place is empty, and I'm like, oh, it must be dinner time already. And I looked, and it was our time. It was early on. I think it was like between 10 and 11 in the morning, if I remember rightly. And I walk around the corner, and I just see like this massive gaggle of people just stood, like literally just stood, mouths open, all clearly staring at the television. And I'll be honest now, my first thought was, oh, Lizzie's popped it. I thought, oh, shit. And when I go around the corner, I just see this smoke and fire and flames and whatnot. I think, all right, what's happening here? Where's that then? And I sort of mentioned, I said, what's, he goes, oh, have you not, yeah, there's an aeroplane flown into World Trade Center in America. I goes, what, really? He goes, yeah. And it was, like I say, you could see the images and the pictures and everything. This was before the second aircraft had actually hit it. And so while we're watching it and we discussed, well, what happened? Oh, an airplane went into it. Did it look like the airplane was struggling or was a bit knackered? Or no, it looked like it went straight into it. We'll show a replay in a minute. And sure enough, what you were seeing then on a 14-inch sort of normal definition, not even, probably 640 by 480 style, crappy definition TV. And you think, crikey, yeah, that didn't look good. And we're all stood there agog, and including the directors of the gaff, they had stood there immediately. And one of the blokes was ringing somebody because he had family out there, somebody who actually was working in the trade centre, because he was from the London Stock Exchange, but he was over there because obviously, you know how what is it? Incestuous the trading arm is, and he was ringing to say if I think it was a cousin or some relation, not direct relation, but they weren't actually there. They were on a weekend's long break or whatever it was. So they turned out that they were nowhere near. They were in some field camping trip up in North and New York State, up almost by Niagara Falls, that part of New York. And so that was where I was, so very uninspiring as regards to the location, but still features, distinctly in the mind. And like I say, they had the cameras on when I saw the second aeroplane come from the other side. We hadn't got all the angles. So you just saw this explosion on the second tower. And I thought, I wonder if the first plane, when it caught the other one, if it bit of spillover and caused some kind of gas explosion, because you don't know what to think, because I'm not a structural expert or anything of that nature. And then, within 30 seconds, a minute, there was another film angle that showed the other airplane as you perceive when you're watching it at the time, going into the tower. And it's only and the thing that sort of I didn't really pay a lot of attention as regards to the what or the how or anything of that nature. It was more of a why for me. And when Dick Cheney blithely announced, it's Iraq, it's Saddam Hussein, it's Iraq, I'm like, why? What has he got to gain? But anyway, that avoided my mind. But one thing that I will say is that irrespective of how it happened, and irrespective of why it happened, what we do know is that 3,000 people lost their lives on the day, 6,000 injured, and tens of thousands lives desperately affected, even to this day. So, like I say, the what, and the why still doesn't remove the fact that there was a very, very sad loss of life from our. And like I say, I know you've got guys in the chat, sort of Justin and that, our American cousins, and we felt it. I certainly felt upset for the American people, the people themselves. I mean, now I still love our American cousins. I just don't particularly like your administration. But having said that, a lot of the guys in our chat probably don't like their administration either. So that's my story, mate.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, I don't think anybody likes their government. I always say that to people as well. Or like England, when I was like for promoting Scottish independence, I would say to folk, look, I love the English people. It's not you that I've got an issue with. It's the government and my own government as well. So I like the Scottish people, well, some of them. But my government, oh man, no, I detest them in quite a bad way. I just can't be doing with them at all. They're so corrupt that it boils my blood, to be honest. Interesting there, yeah, the plane situation. We're kind of going to get into that a bit tonight. There's I guess an expert that we're going to be looking at. But from what I've gathered myself, when you when you go looking around for different interviews from the day, and they're all talking about the plane and or not a plane, even just an explosion. It's all very mixed and very vague. And you had some people saying, yeah, oh, it was out of control, and it was completely out of control, and it hit the building. Then other people say, oh, no, it just came right round. It wasn't out of control. It knew what it was doing. So conflicting stories there. Again, some people said, one person in particular said, oh, I seen it was a small aircraft and it bounced off the building, she said. She said it flew into the building and then it bounced off it, and she described it as a small aircraft. Then you've got other people saying, oh, it was a big airliner. It was like a big 747, clear as day. So, I mean, even going way back, I kind of thought, none of it adds up, right? There's nothing for certain. And I can remember thinking, even going back a bit now, well, where's all the videos in regards to it? Surely more people have got videos of it, but they never ever they never surfaced, or we never got to see them. So I'm unsure. I mean, I'm careful with what I put my weight behind, because similar to Sense, I'm not an expert on demolition or aircraft or controlled demolition of buildings, but hey, we're gonna have a crack at it anyway. we're gonna conclude it tonight and be judge and jury, right? And yeah, that'll be it. But we're gonna look at a few bits. Do you know, I always want to look at as well the telephone call from, well, the different calls that got made from seemingly the hijacked aircraft. I reckon if you take them and you got an expert like the guy Hyatt, oh, what's his name? David Hyatt, the expert analyst. I bet if he had a look at that, he would maybe pull out one or two interesting points in regards to where they actually on a plane. Are they who they even say they are? If David, or I'm forgetting his name, but if we picked up that they could be lying, I mean, that's a bit strange. That there's so many points to that as well. That would be a whole stream in itself, getting into the phone calls. So that's maybe one for the future. When it comes to planes or no planes, would you lean behind anything there, Sensum?
Well, yeah, I would probably do so. Only because, well, like I said, the mobile phones with recording capabilities were, I think, very much in their infancy, even if that was a thing back then. You certainly had cameras with, phone cameras and that, but yeah, the different angles, etc. I think for me, it's the amount of damage that those incidents could have inflicted, as far as I'm concerned, because maybe it's a little bit too early on, but I think, I can't remember, it wasn't the mayor. Well, Giuliani, I think, was the mayor at the time, but somebody,
yeah,
couple of days later or whatever, said, and if the buildings had toppled over, you know, as it was now, you know, New York was quite, he said it was devastating, but in some respects, whether he was naive or he was in the know, he said it's quite fortunate that the buildings collapsed the way they did. Otherwise, we could have seen far more casualties and far more devastation.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And then it's only years later, you know, that you hear about this, you know, this building 7 that was completely untouched, and yet it too miraculously collapsed in exactly the same way. And I'm like, hold on a minute, where was that one's plane? Do you know what I mean? So that was the first thing, and it was ages. I mean, I think it might have been even when I first encountered one of your streams, or certainly along that way, where the talking of Building 7 was first announced. And, you know, like I say, I don't know the how, or, you know, we can speculate at the why just using my very simple equation of, well, who has the capability? Well, in this instance, the capability is pretty much across the board. So, you know, it could be domestic, it could be international, but I mean, the people who have a stake in it, they all had potentially the capability of doing something, you know, from the aircraft perspective or whatever. So then it boils down to, well, who would have, you know, who gains the most, basically. So who yeah, who gains the most from this particular thing? Well, once again, you know, you can only speculate, but if you work out the group or the people who gained the most from this event, and also the aftermath, let's not forget that this also spun into, you know, toppling Saddam Hussein. That then continued on into Afghanistan, and also under the same auspices, saw the removal, the useful removal of Muammar Gaddafi to allow every single bugger from Africa to come into Europe. I mean, for the regime, as I call it, whether or not they were behind it or not, and I have to say, with my little tinfoil hat on, I have to say that they probably were, unfortunately, and in cahoots with other government organisations from different countries. But, you know, it was for them, for the regime, it was the gift that kept on giving. You know, they got almost 20 years out of that. And as soon as Creepy Joe disastrously pulled out of Afghanistan, which Trump should have done first time around, but the industrial war machine hadn't quite got its dominoes in place for the next forever war, which appears to be, unfortunately, the conflict in Eastern Europe. It was like, looking at, hold off a minute, because we still need to keep on paying the industrial war machine. So until we can find like a new golden goose to keep on pushing money out and pulling money back in, you know, can you? And then, like I say, Creepy Joe, August of 2020, was it August 2021? So literally 20 years after, or just, you know, nearly 20 years after the anniversary of the event that caused all this shenanigans, we pull out of Afghanistan, which was it was a complete. Well, they should have pulled out, but what was the disaster was they left their own people there. That's unforgivable. That was so unforgivable. You know, they left their own people there to just fend for themselves. Eventually, the majority of them got out, but even so, it was a bit remiss. And literally within 6 months, forever war in Ukraine now. So it was, for me, whether, you know, I think that the agencies or whatnot, if they weren't in whole or in part responsible, they saw it as a very quick opportunity to capitalize on it in the most nefarious of ways. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. It's I mean, it's quite staggering when you think about it, 22 years and everything that's came from it and the amount of lives that have been affected. But I always, even a while back, thought the psychological effect from it is gigantic, man. And I remember thinking, we had to talk about the Y2K millennium bug. Fuck, world's gonna end, man. Year 2000. And I was quite young still, so I thought, fuck it. It's been a laugh anyway, right? And so I wasn't too fussed about it, but I remember it quite well. And going into the turn of into a new century and thinking, well, is it going to be any different? I remember kind of thinking it's just going to be the same, right? And later on in life, I kind of thought, right, maybe we didn't get Y2K. Maybe the world didn't end because it all went to zero, like we thought it would. Like Alex Jones said it would. Classic. And of course, Bill Cooper, who predicted 9/11, he called out Alex Jones and the Y2K shenanigans. He called all that out, in fact. And in fact, I've lost my place now. Typical. I lost my place there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back now to Tony Blair. I want to show, basically that's what I was going to say. I kind of thought the world did end, maybe not quite in the way that we thought, but come the year 2001, the towers came down and that was it. It changed the landscape, the perception of at least NATO-stan in the whole Western world forever. Because it did, right up until this very day. So maybe Y2K was not what we thought, but it did kind of end in a certain way, looking back on 2001. So I lost my place, but I remembered in unbelievably. It's not often that I do. But there's someone who's done quite a bit of work on 9/11. I want to show you her. But before we go there, I want to take you to the House of Commons. Order! Order! You know the place, right? Full of them absolute bellends, man. The MPs who suck up all the money. And God only knows. In fact, I don't even want to know what they get up to in their secret lairs and lodges hidden away in Westminster. Fucking skeletons in the closet, probably, yeah. And they're all sleazy scumbags, man. I hate them. Honest to God, I bloody hate them. But we're going to go there because I want you to hear a wee bit about what Tony the Devil Blair had to say about the situation. I think it's from the very day. If not, it might be the next day. So let me see if I can work the screen and we'll hear. I mean, I don't even really like hearing Tony Blair. So we're going to have to sort of bear it for a minute or two. I mean, he does go on for about an hour, I think. But, I mean, no one could manage that. You would kill yourself, right? Give me that shooter! Honestly. And Tony Blair today, fucking hell. Could you look any more like Satan himself? Honest to God, the guy oozes evil. You can see it like crawling out of his bloody skin. Honest to God, not so much in this video, but today. Oh, man. And I think that is telling. I'm not saying, hey, Luke, say what if you're good or bad, but I think there's a certain evilness you cannot hide and it will shine through on your skin. Let's go with that, right? So let me see. Can I work? Present. We could go. Sensum has been a gentleman and kindly agreed to come on tonight, which is great. I've a lot of time for the man. And he has also kindly agreed to maybe go about 2 hours, and I can't really go much later than the back of 11, otherwise my wife might kill me. So needs must, right? We'll go. Hey, I've said that before, and we went longer, and I paid the price. So, oh, I started it. I was a bit premature there, for the first time ever, honest to God. So I'll put the volume up. What I'll do is I'll mute me. I think we're gonna listen to maybe 5 minutes, not even that, I don't think. I just kinda want you to hear what he says. So I'll put me on mute and then I'll play it. If there's any issues, put it in big writing so I can hear it. Right, so here we go.
Minister, I should like to inform the House that at 11 a.m. I shall invite colleagues to rise and observe 3-minute silence in memory of those who lost their lives in the tragic events in the United States this week. Order. Statement, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm grateful that you agreed to the recall of Parliament to debate the hideous and foul events in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania that took place on Tuesday, the 11th of September. I thought it particularly important in view of the fact that these attacks were not just attacks upon people and buildings, nor even merely upon the United States of America. These were attacks on the basic democratic values in which we all believe so passionately and on the civilized world. It is therefore right that Parliament, the fount of our own democracy, makes its democratic voice heard. There will, of course, be different shades of opinion heard today. That, again, is as it should be. But let us unite in agreeing this. What happened in the United States on Tuesday was an act of wickedness for which there can be no justification. Whatever the cause, whatever the perversion of religious feeling, whatever the political belief, to inflict such terror on the world, to take the lives of so many innocent and defenseless men, women, and children can never, ever be justified. Let us unite, too, with the vast majority of decent people throughout the world in sending our condolences to the government and the people of America. They are our friends and allies, and we, the British, are a people that stand by their friends in times of need, tragedy, and trial, and we do so without hesitation now. The events themselves are sickeningly familiar to us. Starting at 8:45 US time, 2 hijacked planes were flown straight into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York. Shortly afterwards, at 9:43, another hijacked plane was flown into the Pentagon in Washington. At 10:05, the first tower collapsed. At 10:28, the second, later another building at the World Trade Center. The heart of New York's financial district was devastated, carnage, death, and injury everywhere. Around 10:30, we heard reports that a 4th hijacked aircraft had crashed south of Pittsburgh. I would like, on behalf of the British people, and I hope on behalf of the House, to express our admiration for the selfless bravery of the New York emergency services and the American emergency services, many of whom have lost their lives. As we speak, the total death toll is still unclear, but it amounts, we know, to several thousands. And because the World Trade Center was the home of many big financial firms, and because many of their employees are British, whoever committed these acts of terrorism will have murdered at least 100 British citizens, maybe many more. Murder of British people in New York is no different in nature from their murder here in the heart of Britain itself. In the most direct sense, therefore, we have not merely an interest, but an obligation to bring those responsible to account. To underline, Mr. Speaker, the scale of the loss, we can think back to some of the appalling tragedies this House has spoken of in the recent past. We can recall the grief of the tragedy at Lockerbie, in which 270 people were killed, 44 of them British. In Omar, the last terrorist incident to lead to a recall of Parliament, 29 people lost their lives. Each life lost a tragedy, each one of these events a nightmare for our country. But the death toll we are confronting here is of a different order. In the Falklands War, 255 British servicemen perished. During the Gulf War, we lost 47. So in this case, we're talking about a tragedy of epoch-making proportions. And as the scale of this calamity becomes clearer, I fear that there will be many a community in our own country where heartbroken families are grieving the loss of a loved one. I've asked the Secretary of State to ensure that everything they need by way of practical support for them is being done.
So I'm gonna stop it there. Too much. It's too much. I just want to grab him by the throat, man, and do the time quite easily. I would probably do most of that time smiling, thinking, yeah, well, hey, someone had to do it, right? What do you make of that, what he said there, Sensum?
Well, it's pretty clear that whatever was going to transpire after that, which who knows, you know, he might have already known, he might have already got the heads up, but it was literally yeah, whatever our friends in the United States decide, we're going to shove in straight in with and get stuck in, because whilst we might not be feasting on the main bits, we'll get plenty of crumbs off the table, sort of thing. It's just insidious, and you're quite right, he is evil, and you can tell. I'm certain you can tell people where they know they're evil. They know what they're doing is inherently evil. And you look at the transformation of Blair from 97 through to the present day. If you look at him now, he literally is the spitting image of Mr. Barlow out of Salem's Lot. You know, the vampire character. You look at the pair of them; they're a spitting image now. And I'll tell you another one. I'm not sure who
that is.
Well, look it up, mate. Look it up. Mr. Barlow from Salem's Lot, the 1970s or late 70s, late 70s Salem Lot with David Soul. If you look at Mr. Barlow,
do you know who? It was. Do you
Kurt Barlow.
Kurt Barlow.
If you type in that's the character's name, the vampire's name, Kurt Barlow. Put that in Salem's Lot, Kurt Barlow. That's Tony. He looks the spit of Tony Blair now. But in another one, had. You see what I mean?
Do you know who I was thinking? Remember Ghostbusters? The guy the guy from Ghostbusters, the first one.
Oh, Ghostbusters 2.
Oh, is it the second one?
The main guy I'm thinking about. Ghostbusters 2. Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
With that sort of the longish white hair. That image of him. Yeah, it's a spit of him. Yeah. No, yeah. Well, creepy. You know, somewhere between the two. But yeah, another one who you can see the evil's taking its toll is that Jacinda Ardern, Choppers Ardern from New Zealand, as was. You see her as a little fresh-faced teenage liberal, who's for the Liberal Party activist, all the way through to her finally saying goodbye. And you know, she was, in fairness, she was a pretty lady, but by God, she wasn't that old when she left office, and it had taken its toll. And of course, she decides, oh yeah, I've done a really great job in New Zealand. And she was, you know, everybody was as fed up of all of these Western leaders like Trudeau and all the other ones who'd sort of followed the science, so to speak. And you know, she knew her days were numbered, so she exited stage left and's got a nice cushy number at the World Economic Forum or the UN or something. So it's all a job for the boys. I mean, old Palpatine Blair there, he's touted as being Klaus's replacement. and you couldn't think of a more demonic replacement. So, but going back to the subject matter at hand, Blair's basically saying, yeah, there's going to be a ruck. We're going to get involved, and you British people have no fucking say. Because if you remember, when it all kicked off, there probably up until some of the COVID lockdowns that were never reported by any of the media, particularly the BBC, used to report it as like, and one or two people protested against the lockdowns, and it was literally the length and breadth of London, hundreds of thousands of people walking around. And for even mentioning it, and now it's on record and factually true, but back at the time, if you even mentioned, oh yeah, there's loads of people that, oh no, YouTube says that this is misinformation. Well, I can see for myself, it's there. But yeah, once again, his response to that, to come out and to say those things, once again, I just didn't pick up on it at the time. Like I say, I still was living in a world of naivety, but on reflection, to show his hand that early, to basically say, yeah, whatever our American friend says goes. And then when they said, right, let's do Iraq Mark II, literally hundreds, if not millions of people protested, saying we don't want to be going back there. And Blair just said, well, we are. So, this is not a democracy, basically. Literally, this is not a democracy. I've made my decision, said Palpatine. Yeah.
That's right. I think it was maybe more than 1 million people. And what happened is 1 million people took to the streets and shouted at buildings right across London and achieved absolutely fuck all. They'd have been better off just marching into Westminster, 10 of them, and make an example out of, what that would prove, I don't know, but probably even then they'd have still went ahead with it, to be honest. What I picked up on was, you're right, he's quite blatantly came out straight off the bat and told us, look, it's happening. We're going, whatever Uncle Sam says, we'll be there. In fact, sign up today. You can yourself go to Afghanistan and shoot bin Laden, right? Because there was a lot of that, I remember as well. Oh, yeah, join up and fight terror. Sure, why not? A war against terror. Yeah, let's go with that. But Blair said, straight away he went to, it was an attack on the world. He was calling it an attack on the whole world. I know it was the World Trade Center, but it wasn't an attack on the whole world. No one ever said it was. But here's Blair straight away, fucking day one. Oh, it's an attack on the world. Terror on the world, he said. And we've got to all unite together under this roof and fight the terrorists, right? He even had the brass neck to bring in different tragedies from before, sort of pulling at the heartstrings. Oh, Lockerbie, oh, fucking the war, oh, this, the people that died. And basically claimed, and he even, yeah.
I was just going to say, and
on you go.
This was where the first, or there's probably been dozens of instances, but one of the first times where, if you're watching a news report from Australia, you're watching a news report from the States, you're watching a news report from Canada, basically, the West as we know it now, the fallen West. Every single time it was phrased the war on terror, wasn't it? That was the phrase that they all had their little buzzword going out there,
Yeah.
So it was like all of the little talking heads from media, etc., and the various lick-spittle politicians all stating exactly the same, statement of, well, in this war on terror and things of that nature. And our good friend Rory Herbert, he's popped a little message in and has asked, Could you mention my friend Simon James Turner, who died on the 106th floor of the North Tower on that fateful day? His wife gave birth to their one and only son 2 months later. What an absolute tragedy.
Yeah, that kind of brings it home a bit when you hear stories like that. Just earlier on, I was watching. It was on Odyssey, and it's about a guy who survived it. He was on like the 23rd floor, and somehow he survived, and he was like, I couldn't believe I survived. And seemingly he remembered thinking, bloody hell, surely this is not the way I'm going to die, right? But somehow, just the way it came down, a certain part of it got protected. And I think there were seemingly about 16 people who got saved and rescued from that area. But yeah, that is... thanks for sharing that, Rory. But jumping back to Blair, he finished sort of that segment we watched. He said, "Oh, we've got a responsibility. So we've got a responsibility to bring the people to justice who attacked the whole world." Basically, that was what Blair said, and he said it was of epoch scale. So what, end of the world scale? To set the path for the new beginnings, right? And yeah, I've always felt, even going way back to sheeple days, that the 1990s were the time to be there, the time to be about. After the 2001, not so great, right? And 2020, let's not go there. So what I wanted to look at tonight is something I was hoping would be a wee bit different. Many people might know the person we're going to look at. She's new to me this year, as far as I can remember, but you see that much stuff on 9/11, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that, right? Again, going back to me thinking, well, it's so blatant now. It's almost like a lot of it was done sloppily, or certain parts deliberately, to even set the seed, if you like. And some people have they've called 9/11 the seed of the truth movement. So, I mean, yeah, maybe they wanted that. Maybe they knew. Maybe they wanted a truth movement to build. I would not rule anything out, right? And I'm not going to. And of course, anything we look at tonight, you take it with a pinch of salt, as ever, like Bill Cooper would say. Watch it all, read it all, listen to everyone, believe nothing unless you can prove it. Unless you can prove it yourself or otherwise, that's a different story, right? So we take a lot of it with a pinch of salt. I think there's two videos that I want to present to you in particular. One of them will describe a bit about the person we're going to be looking at, and then we'll look at an interview from the person herself. So the first video, I reckon it's about 4.5 minutes long. So that'll give you a chance, Sensum, to get another curry and some naan bread, right?
This is scandalous, sir. This is scandalous. You brought me on as the booby prize, and now I'm being insulted. This is an outrage. I tell you, I might do that. I might crack open. That's absolutely. I don't know about where you are, mate, but here it's been lovely and warm, and it's still warm now. So I think I may even treat myself to a little can, ice cold can of Memphis Boulevard, which is a grapefruit infused IPA. It's basically a rip-off of Brewdog's Elvis juice. And Aldi do it, and it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to crack one of those open because I am a bit parched. So yes, you roll VT, sir.
Yeah, it's been the same here. and it's still quite humid. And now I'm a bit jealous, actually. So cheers for that, Sensum. But what I'll do is I'll play the video and then we'll come back in after it. Good man. So what I'll do is I'll put me on to mute and then we'll play the video, right? So let me just double check that I've definitely got it. And don't play the wrong one. Is it that one? I think it might be that one. Anybody know? Right, we'll go with that. So I'll put me on the mute and then we'll go with it. So here goes.
In the words of Dr. Judy Wood, for the record, I do not believe that our government is responsible for executing the events of September 11th, 2001, nor do I believe that our government is not responsible for executing the events of September 11th, 2001. This is not a case of belief. This is a crime that should be solved by a forensic study of the evidence. The popular chant, 9/11 was an inside job, is scientifically speaking no different from the chant that 19 bad guys with box cutters did it. Neither one is the result of a scientific investigation supported by evidence that would be admissible in court. Neither identifies what crime was committed or how it was committed. Dr. Judy Wood earned a PhD from Virginia Tech and is a forensic scientist and an engineer with over 35 years of experience in this very area. In the time since 9/11/01, she has applied her expertise to a forensic study of over 40,000 images, hundreds of video clips, and a large volume of witness testimony pertaining to the destruction of the World Trade Center complex. She's also the author of the book entitled Where Did the Towers Go? The Evidence of Directed Free Energy Technology on 9/11. You do not push a belief. You basically are telling the reader to come to their own conclusion based on the evidence that you present.
I don't ask anyone to believe me. I don't want them to. I want people to know it for themselves. I want people to understand what this is.
Now we're talking about somebody with credentials, somebody with the experience to analyze this empirically. If what she's saying is true, and I went to your website and I was blown away from day one, how in the world is it that I don't know about her?
I have over 30 years of experience doing forensic engineering and science. This is what I've trained to do my whole life. I could see that something wasn't right, but nobody else could. And they were so traumatized, they had their pitchfork in hand, ready to go get the witch.
Something about Judy Wood is that she has a tremendous moral keel that must never, I think, be forgotten.
I was just doing what is honest, what's true. You see a problem, and if you don't do anything about it, that's going to sit on your conscience, isn't it?
She has been rigorously excluded from the 9/11 Truth Movement.
You're not allowed to discuss Judy Wood's research anywhere, even in truth groups. It is censored.
If I'm presenting bogus stuff, why is there so much effort spent in trying to destroy me?
I have seen numerous attempts to debunk this woman, and they fail. And they fail because she is not dealing with anything other than what is there, right in front of our eyes.
I only present evidence, and the evidence speaks for itself.
Dr. Wood's argument is pure science. It doesn't contain an accusation.
Dr. Wood is as independent as you can be.
She's just a completely fiercely autonomous force. She's a nightmare for the control system, yes. That woman.
My mother had told me not to look into 9/11 because she said if you do, you won't have a career. And I said, if I don't, nobody will. We might not even have a planet.
Are you now absolutely sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that some kind of directed energy technology contributed to taking down those buildings?
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. We have to see with our eyes, not with what we're told to see. I can't think of anything more important for our civilization than this.
So that's a bit of an introduction to Dr. Judy Wood, about 40 years experience in her field. And she seems like, well, an interesting character straight away, but yeah, like she's got a bit of a calling in this area. So I know that even in what people deem the truth circle or the truth movement, if you like, they probably would dismiss Judy Wood. But who am I to dismiss anyone? I don't, and I don't think we should. It's not how I would operate, but there you go. So we know a wee bit. That gives you a wee bit about her. So what I want to do now is show you a bit more from her in regards to the taking down of the Twin Towers, right? So if I can work, right, yeah, we're good to go. So here we go.
To help us get our mind around the phenomena at the World Trade Center, Dr. Judy Wood begins by reminding us how much structure was there.
We have two towers, huge towers, very large objects once upon a time. Let's look at how they're built. The core columns, huge beefy beams. And then we have the outer columns and floors bolted between the two. These floors are pretty elaborate structures with this webbing of trusses underneath. Can you imagine putting your arms around one of these beams? It's pretty large. I look at this picture and wonder how someone could believe that every single piece of cross-section would disintegrate at the same time, due to heat, due to whatever. And as they're building it, you can see the very substantial core columns. Looks like it's half the floor space. And then they went away. So here we have WTC-3, also known as the Marriott Hotel. Right after WTC-2 was destroyed, had this big gouge out of it. Vertical slice separating the southernmost edge of it. This was before Tower 1 was destroyed, and when Tower 1 was destroyed, the rest of this building went away. And we have these three wheat checks stabbed into the pavement. And here is what's left. This little tiny stub looked like it was the base of this tall, narrow portion. Just a little tiny bit of it left. This is looking north-northeast, across where Tower 1 used to stand an hour or two earlier. Where'd it go? From this down to here's a top view of the site. Building 4, you don't have the main body of it, you just have the north wing. Where did it go? Where are the towers? Bankers Trust is 40 stories, so we're missing 60 or 70 stories of building, more than half of it. Where to go? Where are the towers? Where are the towers? Where to go? Tower 1 is so overshadowed by this 8-story remnants of Building 6. What's wrong with this picture? You should have at least 100 more stories of the north wall of Tower 1. Where is the north wall? Where to go? Where to go? Where are the towers?
Well, they fell down, right? Of course, yeah, they fell down, but obviously what Judy's referring to is all you can see left there is basically the stump of the building, the jagged foundations. The rest of it is gone. And when she refers to, well, anybody who refers to direct energy weapons, they talk about how it basically turned it to dust, just pulverized into the air, into fine particles. And yeah, there was certainly a lot of dust. So yeah, maybe she's got a point there. I want to take in an article before I take back in Sensum. Let me see if I can work the screen. Let me see. The architect is a person that we might get into if we've got time. There's a couple of bits about him that I want to point out, but not much has ever been said about him in the past. He's kind of went under the radar, but not mine. I've got an eye on him, even though he's not here today. Sounds a bit weird, that, right? He passed away. He actually passed away before the towers came down. And I kind of thought, yeah, I bet if he was still about, he'd have been like, no way, no, not a hope in hell did they come down from an aircraft, flew into the side of it, and then it fell into its own footprint. I mean, even I can see that is insane. How people can believe that is beyond me, but seemingly people do buy it. But there you go. So I'll take you to an article that I've seen from this year. The guy wrote it this year, August 2023. So we'll have a wee look at this, but I'll bring in Sensum again and see if he's still with us, or have you fell asleep yet?
No, mate, no, I was riveted with that. Just one thing, at the very start of the first video, it shows you the sort of the steel girders and everything that's assembling, you know, the Trade Center towers. Was that structure, because it looked as though that was sort of groundish level. Was that the outline for all of the floors? So to have that amount of steel all the way up, or, you know, was it, you know, or was that in the design and you could have had,
I think that was all the way
fly by night sort of cowboy, you thought, yeah, well, if we do this,
Yeah.
nobody will know any different.
Yeah, once we get to a certain height, no one's going to see it.
Yeah, well, because it wouldn't be the first time, would it? That something like that's happened.
Yeah.
So, but I mean,
No,
I'm
I'm
not
sure it
playing
was all the
devil's
way.
advocate. I'm just saying.
No, it's a good question, but as far as it, because I've looked at videos where they've covered the building of it. I think it started in 1966, and the first tower was completed, topped off by 69, I think, maybe. If I remember correctly, but looking back at the different images from it, because there was photos of workmen just hanging off the fucking the edges and no harness or nothing like that. Health and safety had not even been invented.
Well,
I mean, these people, man.
Well, back in, I don't know if
So I
that's
think
just
it was
a
all the
trope.
way.
I don't know if it was just a trope or, what we were told outside of the United States, so to speak. So maybe Justine or somebody else from the States could answer this. But I was told that a lot of the people who worked like that on the high floors and just wandering around, no safety belts or anything like that, a lot of them were actually Native Americans. So, because they didn't really have a sense of a fear of heights, so to speak. So, I don't know if that's just an old wives' tale, as we would say, or if that was actually true. If there was quite a lot of the guys working on the very high up construction who were Native.
No, I think it was true, because if they fell off, their hearts could help them. Their hearts would help them float to the bottom, right? Shocking, I know, terrible. Hey, what can I say? But yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, getting the native Indians and the Na'vis, probably some English and Scottish crazy construction workers. Almost definitely there would have been. But yeah, it was quite an achievement when they finished it. I think there was a lot of pride in it as well, and of course, turned to dust basically. But I want to show you this article here where this guy pretty much lays out, I guess, the no plane situation. And again, people believe what they want to believe. There's no set agenda from me, because I don't know. Again, I'm very dubious about where to put my weight. All I'm adamant about is that the official story is not what happened. That's basically where I'm at, and where I've always been at with it. The rest of it can be up for debate. But if you go back, even at the video that I showed at the start, in the intro, the first plane, is it the first plane? I think it might be. You can see the bottom of it. And it's like CGI, because as the plane gets closer to the building, the whole nose, half of the nose of the plane, it disappears. And you can see it clear as day. I don't know if anybody picked up on it, but it's like a computer glitch almost. And then you see a light or a flash, and I'm unsure. I'd have to look back again, but it's either a flash on the plane or a flash on the building, but you can see the flash through the plane, which probably shouldn't be. But I kind of get the sense that no matter what you was to point out from these videos, which are few and far between, and some of the people who recorded them are very dubious indeed. I think one of them was some Jewish jeweler. So, and that raised an eyebrow or two for me, but I think no matter what you said about that, it's never going to be proven or disproven. So it's kind of like a flogging a dead horse. But when you go to Dr. Judy, she focuses on the evidence. So maybe she's got a good point in a lot of what she says in her work. So once upon a time, there were two 110 steel-framed, steel core towers. So I guess all the way stacked up. I think there could be a video here or images from the building of it. Today, they're not there anymore. Nearly 22 years ago, each one of these 110-story towers were supposedly hit by a plane. And we saw it on TV, so it must be true, right? Of course. And they apparently caused this. Oh, yeah, jet fuel as well was one that got... Oh, yeah, well, jet fuel, right? Super duper fire. I'm unsure how much fuel you would need. Someone could probably calculate that. How much fuel would the aircraft have had? I don't think they were that long into flight. I'm unsure, but you could probably calculate how much they actually had. Probably not enough to take down a building, but what do I know? There's a bit of the images there. Just if you want to jump in any time, since I'm just firing. So yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean that one on the right there, where you can see it sort of taking shape and going up. That sort of sort of illustrative that it was going to be like that all the way up. So
yeah.
But that,
yeah,
like
because the architect.
Well, it's just another one on the
you
top left there. If you look at if you look in the very, very middle of that image, you've got this massive sort of column of steel, and then you've got those massive girders joining it. And then if you look sort of to the far right of that image, you've got the three-fingery bit there, which isn't, it's nowhere near the depth or whatever, and yet that was the bit that survived. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
That's the fingery bits that seem to survive, isn't it? Doesn't make any sense, really.
So two 110-story steel tower, steel core towers in 5 plus 5 buildings that also came down. So you had building 7, but there was other wee buildings round about that I think some of them maybe came down in the damage, but I'm unsure. Maybe they got zapped, direct energied as well. I've not had a chance to look into them, but there's another.
Well, we know, just out of interest, we know that the first, the two towers, the twin towers, as they were called, towers, like I'm imagining 1 and 2, and we know that they talked about building 7, but they also mentioned in that little in the video before of building 6. So I imagine that there must be a 3 and a 4. Given that these buildings were given numbers, do we know what function or what what they do? Were they all linked to the World Trade Center? Because I know that building 7 definitely was. So was 3, 4, 5, and 6 also related to trade? The function of the World Trade Center. It'd be interesting to know if it was equally selective, shall we say.
Someone in the chat can find out for us, right? See if anybody's on the ball. Yeah, I think that might be the very top. Yeah. And I mean, even looking at that, it doesn't look, I don't know. I kind of feel that a plane would fly right through that and just come out the other end, and that would be it. There would just be a big hole in the building. But the core, what gets me the most with the plane, apart from the CGI stuff that you see, is this core of the building. I mean, that would have been fucking solid, man. Nothing would have been getting through that in any sort of state, and for it to come down in the way that it did, simply from an aircraft flying into it, when it was designed in a way that it shouldn't fall down, as far as I'm aware. And I think it's not a great picture, but as Sensum said, the outside frames the architect built it in a way so it was like a Gothic window, very short window like you see on cathedrals and stuff like that, which again is interesting as well. So they're not that strong, although they're very close together, which is again strength. But it's the steel core. I just cannot buy that the aircraft managed to take it down, and not just that, on one tower, another tower, and then what, building 7 never even got hit by an aeroplane seemingly, and it fucking fell down in its own footprint, man. It's insanity, complete insanity. So there's the completed object, and I done a live before when we talked about who basically built it, and it's, when you look into it, it was basically built by David and his brother Rockefeller. I think David and, was it Nelson? Maybe David and Nelson. And at one point, this is no, I kid you not, at one point they were even saying when it was getting built, maybe we should call them David and Nelson. They must not like the idea of that. No, we can't do that because, yeah, well, you don't want to know why, but we won't be calling it after ourselves, right? And I kind of thought, fucking hell, have these been built and they already knew in mind that they would be taking them down? And again, I would not rule anything out, but David Rockefeller, I digged out an interview from him about 2 years ago, and he was talking about the Twin Towers on the day, and he said, yeah, it happened, and then we were in, he was in the Rockefeller building at the time, not far from it, and he said he could see it. So he said he watched it pretty much unfold, the whole lot, like sitting there on his deck chair drinking a fucking can of beer, watching it, right? And these people are fascinated with art, but real art, that it is real emotion. And I couldn't help but think, fucking hell, does this guy, does he see this as a form of art? Because when you look at the art that the Rockefeller family do, it's a bit weird, to say the least. But I couldn't get round that he just sat there. He stood there in his building watching it all unfold. And I thought, that's interesting because they're not very far from it. Surely they would have been, it would have been sensible to think, right, well, actually, there's a terrorist attack, seemingly. Maybe we should go elsewhere and not be in a high-rise building that could potentially be a target, because it probably should be, let's face it. But he wasn't. He didn't go anywhere. Similar again to when George Bush, they told him that it was happening. They were telling him while he read a story in a school that America was under attack at fucking war. Surely in that very instant that they knew, he would have been rushed away for his own security instantly, no matter what. And it would, I doubt it would even be a decision that he would be able to make. It would have just been, nope, he needs to go. And away out to his fucking bunker, wherever it is that these reptiles hide.
Sorry, mate, can I just nip in?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that film, Vice, with Christian Bale playing Dick Cheney. He plays a great part, completely transformed. And if you believe the narrative of the film, when this, I mean, I'm not laughing because of the atrocity that it was, but whoever did it or whatever, you cannot undervalue the loss of life and the lives of thousands that were forever ruined by this thing. But in the film, and Dick Cheney once again is such a doyen of evil that I can sort of believe it. But I'm certain in the film, when this happens, somebody says we need to get the president out, and I was, if this is to be believed, Cheney goes, fuck him, let's get to the bunker, because Cheney knew he was going to start calling the shots, so to speak, as vice president. So I don't know, because it does say in the film's titles, certain aspects have been, done for license and others haven't. You'll have to decide which, or something along those lines. But it's the kind of line I can imagine Cheney saying, like, oh, we need to get the president out now. Fuck him. Let's go down to the bunk. I can just imagine Cheney rubbing his hands already at the thought of, yep, Saddam, we've got you now, sunshine.
Yeah, well, do you know this? Bush he kind of comes across as the guy who would do that. Oh, fuck, get me out of here. He's away, right? He would be running. But of course, if he knew exactly what was going to go down and what was going to then follow, you're not going to run anywhere, are you? Because you know what's going down. Whereas if you're under attack out of the blue, like it was meant to be, then fuck, you're going to be panicking, right? Especially Bush, man. I mean, bloody hell. But he was acting all in an interview that he done years later, he was like, oh, yeah, I was acting cool and I knew there was kids there and I didn't want to cause panic or anything like that. And I thought, yeah, making himself out the hero. And while he was saying it, he was laughing about it. Honest to God, he was fucking laughing. And I thought, he's laughing. When you look back on a lot of his interviews, he does laugh through it quite a lot. I mean, I can be bad for that as well, but it's usually funny at the time. When it's Bush, it's like, fuck, what is he laughing at? Is he laughing because people are buying it? Or is he laughing because he's, I don't know, insane? But he, honestly, I think it was done about 10 years ago, and he's a bit older, and he's talking about it like he was the big man and the hero of the day. But yeah, usually the heroes are the complete opposite, right? So I'll jump back. Great stuff, Sensum. I'll jump back to this article. Right, so we should have videos here, but there's quite a few, so I've got to be sure it's the right one. That would help, so you might have to bear with me a sec. Right, let me see. Right. It was yesterday I looked at it. I should have had a look again today. There's a video that I want to point out. Can this take me to the channel?
This amateur video taken from the 20...
Yeah, here we go. Right, so we'll play this for a few minutes as well. So I'll put me on to mute and then we'll have a look. I think it's mainly, well, the article's focused on the plane situation. No plane, yes plane. Who knows, right? I kind of lean towards no plane just because of the complete confusion surrounding it. I don't think there should be so much confusion. I think it should be, yep, that's fucking, I watched it, it came all the way, and yep, I was watching it, it came all the way, it came this way, it turned into the building. Same. But no. Confusion, mixed stories. And I mentioned before about people who, I don't know why they do it, if they want to be maybe in the heat of the moment, they think, oh, I can actually get on TV or become famous here. I'll be on Good Morning Britain, Good Morning America. Oh yeah, I seen it. I was right there. I was right under the plane and I watched it. So when it comes to interviews, as always, you take it all with a big pinch of salt. And but the confusion surrounding it in regards to so many different takes on what it was or what it wasn't, it brings up so many red flags and alarm bells for me. So put me on mute and then we'll listen for a few minutes and let me see if I can make it a bit more visible.
Click on the full screen, mate, the little box thing.
Listen, you. Who's in charge here?
I'm just saying.
Hey?
I'm just saying.
Who do you think I am? Of course, I shouldn't argue with the backbone of YouTube. Do you know this? The live streams that you do, I think they're great, and I kind of feel like you should do more. But I know you've got a lot. You're busy a lot of the time with your work and stuff like that. But I always look forward to them. So it's a pleasure to have you on tonight. And so I'll play a few minutes and then we'll catch up again. So here goes.
This amateur video taken from the 20th floor of Beekman Towers shows the second plane practically flying through World Trade Tower number 2. Oh my God!
The fire coming out of the first building there, the plane, and it looks to me, and I'll confess I don't have the greatest monitor here, that you could almost see the nose of that plane coming through the other side of the building. That may have been an illusion as we looked at it here, but that's how it looked to us.
So, can you see that, Sensum? Do you see the nose of the plane?
Yeah, I see a big nose in New York there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How fitting, right? That is fitting, that. Let me see if I can go back a wee bit. Oh, there it goes there.
Will you show it from that angle, though, next? Because it would be good, because you can definitely see. You can definitely see, even by looking at the shadow projection there, that looked to be accurate. So the plane comes through. And then you see the nose come out right there. It's casting its own shadow. So it would be interesting to see if you saw that same correlation from a different angle.
Mm-hmm. See, what I'm struggling here is the nose of the plane is, it would have been pretty much dead in the center of the building. So it would have went through, should it not have went through the core of the building? This looks like it's more at the very edge of the building.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Should it not be more in the middle of the building, maybe?
Well,
but then again, even if it's went through the core, there would be no nose left.
Yeah, it's gone through the edge of the building.
And you can almost see the pointy bit on the nose.
Yeah, and it went through the core of the build. Yeah. Well, no, it went through the edge of the building, which we can see isn't as reinforced. But then that wouldn't explain how the core then disintegrated, because it was in that instance it was a glancing blow. So you may expect to see maybe 2 or 3 of the floors above that sort of sink and sag, but the remainder of the central structure would have remained intact, because that's effectively a glancing blow in that instance. You know, whether or not you want to believe it or not, you know, it's neither here nor there. Whether or not it's how they want to portray it or not, that, based on the structure that we saw of that central column, that's a glancing blow. It shouldn't have collapsed. Yeah. If, like I say, if indeed you believe there is an aircraft in there, like I say, I don't know. I can't say for sure. But, you know, if there was, then that's like a, it's like a gunshot nicking somebody in the arm. You're not going to die from it. It's going to hurt like mad, but you're not going to die from it, are you? But in this instance here, they're saying that's a terminal blow. Well, we can clearly see that it wouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm. And if it never took out the central column and just
that
through
building
the
would remain
side of it.
intact. Yeah.
Yeah, surely, right? So there's so much surrounding it. It's like, well, none of it seems to add up whatsoever. We'll take it back and we'll listen to a wee bit more. I'll put me on mute.
This amateur video taken from the 20th floor of Beekman Towers shows the second plane practically flying through World Trade Tower number 2. Oh my God!
The fire coming out of the first building there, the plane on the lower left side of your screen. And it looks to me, and I'll confess I don't have the greatest monitor here, that you could almost see the nose of that plane coming through the other side of the building. That may have been an illusion as we looked at it here, but that's how it looked to us.
Here is Dr. Judy Wood, former professor of engineering mechanics.
Now, that's a familiar voice there, right? We'll hear what Richard's got to say.
Is that Rich D. Hall?
Yeah, it sounds like it. So I've only seen the start of this video, so we'll hear what he's got to say. But yeah, the guy's saying there, oh, I think I've seen it, but maybe it was an illusion. I found that interesting. They're unsure what to make of it, right? Because in their mind, they must be thinking, well, fucking that shouldn't be, right? And the guy pointed out in the picture, well, there's not a hole, there's no exit wound, if you like. So was it an illusion or was it some CGI? Maybe the guy pushed pause at the wrong time. Oh, I don't know. I mean, it would be MD's guess, but were they not quite spot on with the CGI? Or again, is that a deliberate ploy to then make people question things?
You know, if the best way to hide the truth is to spin a dozen or more narratives, because they don't mind if they've got 10, if they can spin, create 10 plausible conspiracy theories, even if one of them's correct, they're happy with only 10% knowing the truth, because even they probably don't know the whole truth themselves. Once again, it's all this notion of hiding things in plain sight, isn't it? It's much easier, if everything's, you see what you see, and then you get the subliminal messaging around it. But one of the things that I will say about when that airplane, the second airplane, goes into the building, when you see it from the other angle and you see it banking in towards the building, and like I say, you'd have to see the entry point completely from the other side. But as it's approaching the building, it looks as though it's on a more centralized trajectory. And yet the actual bit that you see is right along the side. So that's another thing. Like I say, it could have been the fact that it was, coming in at a weird angle that you just couldn't see from that perspective, which is, is potentially, it is true. But if I was watching that, in decent quality definition, which we haven't got, and I was working out, I had time to work out the angles, that airplane did, the airplane as it was coming into the building did look as if it was going to ping, the middle part of it, and then we see the aftermath running along the sides. But even so, however they want to play it, if I maintain that if that was something actually entering the building, whatever that may be, I mean, Hasdak said, was it a missile with wings painted on after? Don't know. But whatever the cause of it is, if something entered that building and skimmed along the side, there's no way the central core could have been affected.
My mute button is being insane. Typical, right? It's because I had to get rid of my mouse.
It was the slightly other angle there. That one there. That to me.
Yeah, on you go.
From that one there, when you see it flying in towards the building, that last, not that one, but the one before. If you can rewind it back to that bit there, as it's banking in towards the building. So a little bit further back. Yeah, no, wait a second. So we've got that one, and then a few moments later, you'll see the one from the other angle. If you pause it when you see the aircraft, like I say, it's difficult to gain a perspective, but it's not this one, it's the next piece of footage. There, this one. Pause when you see the plane there. So on that one there, banks in.
It's almost right at the very edge of it in the corner.
But when you see that aeroplane coming into the building, so frames before it actually enters the building, you go back to it banking in towards the building. Yeah, so this...
What one is it?
It's the one after the... Yeah, so leave on this here now. And then this next one, you'll see the plane. When you watch the plane, its trajectory appears to though it is coming in from a more... Not this one. It's a different angle. It's almost the angle where you're looking up rather than straight on. You're looking up to the left of the building. It's the one immediately after this. If you just leave it running, get ready to pause it, because it'll flick to a different angle. If you just pause it as soon as it flick there, pause that. No, well, yeah, try again. Keep playing, mate, because it might be just let it play, because there's definitely one where you see the wings and the fuselage of the airplane banking in towards the building, and it looks as though it's going to make a central hit, and then it doesn't. And it doesn't look right to me, that bit, if I'm being honest. But anyway.
Yeah, well, when I seen it, I kind of got the impression if it was to be it would either be right in the middle, or if anything, it would be more towards the other side of the building rather than the side that we seen the nose seemingly pop out of, where if you look at that image, there's I think that's where it hit it directly. Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got the model out. So we'll listen to a few more minutes of this, and then we'll have a chat. So put me on mute. Can I work it?
Former professor of engineering mechanics, explaining her reaction to seeing the damage to the towers on television.
Well, on airplanes, the wingtip isn't even strong enough to hold fuel in it. The fuel is held further closer to the body. Right. What got to me was that upper wingtip slot. There was a 5-inch deep slot cut into the building. This can hold the lights on the end, but it can't slice a steel column.
Right. Okay. So the end sections of the wings would not penetrate
Right,
the
they'd break
box section
off.
steel girders,
As
basically.
a matter of fact, if you've been on a plane, you look out the window and read on the wing. It says no step, no step here, because the wing is delicate in places.
In this clip, a plane lands too heavily, illustrating just how light and fragile a plane's structure is. You might ask, how did the buildings get holes that are shaped like planes if the planes could not penetrate the steel columns? The Nordette clip of the North Tower sheds light on how this may have been done. Watch carefully. The alleged plane is seen to penetrate the building, and several seconds later, something happens on the surface of the tower. I've stopped the action here. If we compare it with the 3D model, we can see this damage is in the position of the supposed wing hole and was created well after the alleged impact, thus creating the desired Roadrunner effect. Dr. Judy Wood, whose research concludes a directed energy weapon was used to disintegrate the towers, has looked at magnetometer data, which measures variations in the Earth's magnetic field from monitoring stations based in Alaska. This data shows at the time the first hole appears, the Earth's magnetic field fluctuates, suggesting a directed energy weapon was used to create the hole in Tower 1. Another observation I made when editing these videos was the lack of reflecting light glinting off the plane's surfaces. It was a sunny day and the images show very little reflection effects.
But NASA and the FAA believe in order to prevent an accidental disaster, you have to create an intentional one. In the name of science, the two agencies teamed up to demolish a Boeing 720. The goal is to gather crucial information that will lead to safer air travel. To make sure that the test is comprehensive as possible, they set up a runway to ensure total devastation. Railroad trap rocks cover the landing pad, so the sparks will fly when the plane's belly skids across the tarmac. Next, jagged barriers are cemented into the runway in an effort to shear off the wings, cut fuel lines, and tear through engines. Lastly, the fuel tanks are filled to capacity. Pilots, via remote control, take the unmanned plane up to 2,300 feet and then bring it in for a crash landing. A second angle shows the wing cutter ripping through one of the engines and igniting the jet fuel. The flames are so intense, the camera mounted on the tail section fries. When the smoke finally clears, scientists gather vital information that will be used for generations. It's because of studies like these that air travel today is one of the safest forms of transportation.
And Joe, I got to say, this is so elegant and so beautiful that I consider this to be the decisive argument. Newton's third law, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, which of course means we could treat the plane as stationary and the building as hitting it as 560 miles an hour, or the building stationary and the plane impacting at 560 miles an hour, and you're going to have a similar effect. The plane, in terms of its impact on the building, simply showing, again, physically impossible features. You don't see the gases in the building that the plane purportedly is making as it passes through the building.
Yeah, and here's something even more preposterous. The plane is weaker than the building. The structure of the plane is made out of metals that are weaker than the structural steel of the building. So therefore, you should see the building cutting into the plane's wings every 39 inches on center, which is what the box beams, horizontal box beams are on the building.
Yeah.
You don't see that. You just see the plane melding into the building. So anyway, when I'm watching 9/11 and I see a plane meld into a building like a hot knife cutting butter, I mean, right away, it was brought to my attention.
First of all, we're going to talk about Flight 11 and 77 didn't exist in the beginning. The Bureau of Transportation Statistics has no record of them taking off, has no, so let's forget about them because they did not exist. So now we're just talking about 175 and Flight 93.
It's an interesting postscript that Flight 93 was spotted on April 10th, 2003 at Chicago's O'Hare Airport by David Friedman, a United Airlines employee who records all of his flights. The tail number, N591UA, was spotted on Flight 1111, a United Airlines 757. And according to the FAA, both N591UA and N612UA, Flights 93 and 175, are still valid. But Flights 11 and 77 are listed as destroyed. Not to mention that they were not even scheduled to fly on September 11th.
Sorry, I had technical issues here, but we're all good there. I thought I'd pause it there. I'm unsure. I think the video goes on for quite a bit, but I'm conscious of the time as well, and I kind of wanted to have the last maybe half an hour or so chatting to our English brother, and of course people in the chat. I've not had a chance to even say hello. Shocking, right? Get them off. Yeah. So I'll get rid of this for the time being. Have I got another video to play? Let me see. I don't think I do. So we're all good. I've not missed out on anything that I know of. We'll go with that. So yeah, what do you make of that, Sensum? Did you hear the guy saying, "Oh, that 2 planes never even existed"? I mean, yeah, we take it with a pinch of salt, but if that's the case, I mean, yeah, surely they weren't there weren't any planes then.
Well, there either weren't any planes or there were planes branded with that artificially, shall we say. So either way, you know, there's still a question that needs to be answered there. You know, did those planes not exist? Or, you know, if they did, which planes were they? Because they clearly weren't the 2 that were not, you know, the ones that were numbered in the way that they were. So, yeah.
Yeah, I find it all quite strange. I think you'd be there quite a long time trying to get to the bottom of the plane situation. Interesting, some people said, "Oh, it looks like a rocket," because some of the people who got interviewed on the day, they were unsure. Oh, it might have been a rocket or a missile. They think they seen something, but they're unsure. But a lot of it, one thing that did sort of ring throughout all of them was the big explosion. Oh, I heard a big, huge explosion, and then of course they're looking up, right? And there's one of the videos as well. It's watching the tower, and it's like watching the first tower's being hit. So the video's on it, and they're watching it. But when the second tower gets hit, as my dog goes crazy, when the second tower gets hit, the camera moves away right at that exact moment. It pans away down, and then it's fucking, the planes hit it, and then they put the camera back. And it's like that. What would be the chances? I guess, yeah, you could say, oh, sod's law, right? But I always thought, fucking hell, what's the chances of that? They're watching it the whole time. Like, even kind of, I think they do mention, oh, it's going to fall down or it's going to collapse. And then the very moment the second plane comes in, they're not recording. I found that quite interesting. A lot of the interviews, I'm not sure what to buy with it, to be honest. The figures in regards to the death count, I'm unsure. There's one thing that I do think about, and it's the timing of it. Because a lot of people, I think a lot of people in the centre started at about 9 o'clock. So I think a lot of people were on their way to the World Trade. But I mean, it was open. I think people worked there right round the clock. So they probably had different schedules and whatnot. But I think a lot of them were on their way. Some of them even running a bit late and then thanking their late night before. My late night saved my life. I remember that was it was like a headline in the paper. Oh, watching Monday Night Football saved my life, because the guy was late for work and he would have been Brune Breed had he not slept in that morning. And even then I remember thinking, fuck, is this where we go after what just happened? Oh, but look at this guy. He was late for work, so he didn't die. And it's like, did we just move on? And straight away on the very day it happened, oh, Bin Laden, terrorist attack. Straight away. No ifs, no buts. No one was even going to dare question it early on, even a wee bit later on from what I can recall. But there was people there who did. even the guy Bill Cooper, still around on the day, said, of course, people who know about Bill Cooper know that Bill Cooper predicted the Twin Tower attacks that year. And Bill said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, have you seen what's on the news? And they're talking about bin Laden and terrorists wanting to attack America. And they were saying that America and the United States of Israel, they talked about seemingly. And Bill Cooper at the time, he could see where it was going. He said, well, excuse me. He said, you can see what they're doing, right? There's going to be an event here in America and they're going to blame it on Osama bin Laden. And he said, but don't you believe it, because it will not be him. And he called it out to a T. And this is before it, I think, in maybe the turn of the year 2001. And it was in the sort of run up to it. So he could see it in the media. He could see where it was going. And he called it out, and then it happened. And people that day, the day that it happened today, 22 years ago, people were phoning up Bill Cooper and saying, fucking, have you seen the news? And obviously Bill on the ball, he's watching it. And he's like, well, I told you, right? I told you they were going to do it. And look at what they're doing. They're blaming bin Laden already. And Bill Cooper, one of his friends who had quite a big radio show, he phoned Bill up on the day and said, look, do you want to go on live on our show? And you can, I mean, you're the guy. This is what you predicted. You're the guy to do it. So he's there doing a live show as it is unfolding. I think he got there maybe towards midday. He was on air and it was rolling. And the towers had came down. And Bill was saying, look, anybody could tell you, but if you go and ask a demolition expert, and remember, this is on the very day, he said, go and ask a demolition expert. That is a controlled demolition. No two ways about it. Fell, collapsed in a matter of pretty much seconds into its own footprint. Perfect. It got 10 out of 10 for controlled demolitions. And Bill knew on the very day. Not only did he predict it, but on the very day called it out for being a controlled demolition. And what Bill did not know at that time is that the FBI and the CIA and the powers that be were actually going to take Bill Cooper out that very day. They had it pretty much arranged, and they were going to seemingly try to arrest Bill on tax evasion, which, going by what Bill said, is complete nonsense. He was well within the rights in what he was doing. But anyway, they had, and it's all in the police report in black and white. So on the very day the towers came down, the day that Bill Cooper predicted, the CIA were planning on taking him out, but they didn't. Now, what they say in the report is, well, the Twin Towers happened, so they never went ahead with it. I think the police still carried on being the police and stuff like that, right? So I think what happened is they never foreseen Bill Cooper going to do the show. They didn't know that guy was going to phone up Bill and say, look, Bill, you need to come over here. So Bill hot-tailed it to a different location, catching them off guard, I'd imagine, because they had it all planned out. They went in undercover, which is, talk about criminal, but dressed up as teenage fucking hoodlums, if you like. And they tricked Bill later on when they did eventually go ahead with it. But I think they did. I think what they wanted to do is take Bill out on that day as well, which would have been, I mean, that would have been, yeah, very fitting. And not only that, for me, it would have been telling. There's the guy that predicted it. Not only that, they planned to take him out on the 11th of September, but they cancelled it. And then, of course, the rest is history. I think later on in the year, they went ahead with it and they took Bill out. And Bill did predict it, basically his own death as well. He said, look, nah, they won't get me. They're not taking me alive. In that sort of words. So I guess Bill, yeah, he kind of predicted that they were gonna kill him. On his own doorstep, he said, and that is where he ended up lying. They shot him on the back. What they tried to say from the police reports is that Bill shot one of them first. Bill seemingly got wind of the situation because Bill stayed in a house where it was like on a hill. The police were at the bottom of it and they were causing a scene. So they caused attention. Bill comes down. This is the story. Bill comes down in his car, which seemingly they never expected. They thought he would walk and they would just arrest him. But they said he came down in his car and somehow caught wind of what was going on. So hot-tailed it off. Then they chased him up to the house, where then Bill got out and ran seemingly towards his house, shooting behind him and shooting a police officer. I think in the head, I think he actually survived, but yeah, okay. So he shoots the guy Martinez, I think. So they're like, yeah, fire, right? So they shot Bill in the back as he was almost into his house. And they said that Bill had a rifle behind the door, and if he had got in, he would have shot them all, basically. And yeah, hey, he probably would have, but they phoned an ambulance for the guy Martinez, seemingly. They didn't phone an ambulance for Bill, and he bled out to death. He bled to death on his own doorstep, right beside his dog, who they shot as well in the head. Yeah, so Bill predicted it. No two ways about it. Do you know much about Bill Cooper? Sensum, have you read the book Behold a Pale Horse?
No, I haven't, mate. No, but I recollect you mentioning the stories of Bill, and especially about his him being his predictions, and also him being taken out, which is why, you know, when we see other certain types, you know, Bill was an innocent, you know, he was just speaking truth to power, but we know that when other people who are quite nefarious, like Jeffrey Epstein and whatever, they managed to somehow managed to find themselves, you know, suicided, shall we say? So, which is why I can't remember who the comedian was, American guy, but he said, yeah, if any of you guys, you know, like the January 1st debacle that it is, you know, giving people 22 years for just rocking up in a place that they actually own, because it is for the people. Do you know what I mean? It's just scandalous. He's saying, I'll tell you what I'm going to say to those guys is when the judge says, have you got any words before you get sent down? Say, hell yeah, I have absolutely no intent whatsoever to kill myself. I'm guarantee you that. None whatsoever. Get that out there up straight front.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say that Epstein never killed himself?
No.
I must have missed something there, right?
Look, those paper blankets can be quite strong, you know, at times. Enough to break two bones in your neck that wouldn't normally be broken through hanging. So.
Yeah, I mean, how mental was that? Remember they were saying, oh, one of the guards fell asleep. Oh, the camera wasn't working. And it's like fucking high security prison that Epstein himself paid for. He pretty much built the fucking thing. It's like, holy shit.
I still really enjoy the, you know, when we did the Clinton body count, and there was that one of the chap who you know, was saying the wrong things or was threatening to expose the Clinton, shall we say, and he committed suicide by hanging himself and then shooting himself with a double-barrel shotgun that was found 30 meters away.
Fucking hell.
That's in the report. That's the shotgun was found subsequently 30 meters away from the body.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I mean, how do people buy that, right? There was one of them as well. He was a victim of a robbery, but they never stole any of his stuff. They just stabbed him to death, and he had all his money and watch and belongings on him.
Well, I remember that when he had a Longines watch, which is sort of up there with your Rolexes, a full wallet, a full set of credit cards,
Yep.
you know, rings and other things, phone or whatever it was. Like, hold on a minute, it's not much of a robbery. What did they nick? His soul.
Yeah, the Clinton count is, wow, that is really something else. I guess if we got into it, we could end up on it. So maybe we'll give it a wide berth, right? I mean, they seem to kill anybody. If you look at them wrong, that's you. You've committed suicide the next day. I shouldn't laugh, right?
Well, the thing is that there's you. I was listening to. Oh man, the day they went to the moon. You spoke to him on your channel, mate. Great bloke. I've got his
Bart.
That's it, Bart Sabrell. And I was listening to that, and the day he goes to take the tape to, cable news network or whoever it was before it became pre-woke or whatever, and he's going to the place, and he gets met immediately by security guards saying, "Yeah, you can't go in there." So he finds himself ducking around the corner and finding a side entrance. And then when he comes out, he's sort of being tailed by a couple of blokes, and he gets arrested. He's going to get thrown into the back of a van. And if it wasn't for the fact that this other fellow, completely innocent of all what was going on, walked out of the door of what he looked at Bart, and he looked up and saw, and he goes, "Are you a lawyer?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he says, "Be my lawyer." And so if it hadn't been for the intervention of that lawyer and saying, "Well, you can't actually do this. This is literally against his constitutional rights. You've got no evidence of any crime. You've got no sort of supporting evidence. Therefore, you are illegally detaining them. Therefore, I don't care that you're officers of the state or officers of the security services. You literally have no rights. And if you continue, you literally will be committing the crime of kidnapping." And had this bloke not been there at that time and been clued up on Bart's rights as an individual, Bart would have been spirited away as well.
Yeah, that's right. That was fascinating, the story he was saying about when that had happened. They had the CIA seemingly, I think they drugged him.
Yeah.
Somehow he had been drugged. And he said it was the next day when he thought, "Oh, if I get my urine tested,
yeah,
I might be able to prove that I've been they poisoned, well, not poisoned, but drugged him. They roofied him, basically." So Bart gets in touch with a laboratory who agreed to take it in to get looked at. Then a few days later, they phone up Bart and say, "Oh, there's a bit of an issue." "Okay," he says. What is it?" "Oh, we had a break-in." There's been a break-in, right? And he's like, "Funny thing is, there's only one thing that's missing, and it's your urine sample." It's been stolen, right? So the CIA, and Bart thought he was outsmarting them. So he was he was like using different phones and speaking to people that he thought they wouldn't know or whatever it may be, sort of espionage style, thinking he could outsmart the CIA, right? But going by what he said. They got an agent to break into the laboratory and they stole his urine sample, the most prized bit of piss in the world at that time, anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that cracked me up. That story. He's got so many stories as well. It's fascinating stuff. It was a pleasure talking to Bart. Hopefully, I can get him on again, and if I do, maybe I can bring you on, and you can speak to him as well. I'm sure that would be great. And we
Yeah,
can
well,
get a
like I
better-
say, just like Jerry, fascinating tales, and once again, people could just say, "Oh, it's just all anecdotal," but when he has people like the taxi driver who was being his shadow, and he said, "Look, we'll nip round the corner. You get yourself away," because he paid this taxi driver to literally drive him, because he knew his own car was being followed and tailed. So he paid a taxi driver, whatever it was back in the day, like $200 to drive him to that studio and be his, like, sort of his pseudo shadow, so that when these police sort of stopped Bart from going in to seeing the person who he was registered to go and meet, and in the television studios, he's saying, like, well, I'm under arrest. No, but you can't go in to see this bloke. And the taxi driver was saying, well, you can't stop him then, can you? And he goes, no, we can't. But he was physically stayed in his way. So they weren't arresting him. They weren't saying they were stopping him, but they physically were creating a barrier, which is essentially stopping him. And that was when you had that tale where they were trying to sneak round the side entrances and things, So, and, other people have corroborated that. So it can't,
Yeah.
If it was just Bart saying, oh, and then this happened, oh, and then this happened, you could think, well, sounds a little bit, because it all sounds really far-fetched, because it does sound like something that you would see in a movie, like, like The Blowout, or, The Conversation and stuff like that. But this literally was like that. And like I say, all of these people who he interacted with, the lawyer, the taxi driver, have all signed sworn statements saying, yep, this is exactly what happened. The taxi driver even submitted the logs of his fares. So, you can only go so far down the line of people saying, this bloke is just a bit of a romancer, to saying, well, there are too many corroborating stories for this not to have merit.
Yeah. I think Bart said as well, he took his evidence at one point in his film to, was it ABC news network? It was quite a big news network. And he said, right, look, this is what I've got. And he puts it on, and the guy's like, bloody hell, yeah, that quite conclusive. And then he's like, I can't put that out though. He's like, yeah, I can see they faked it from your evidence, but I can't put that out. So he's like, nope, it's we can't do it. It would be suicide, I guess, if you like. But so Bart kind of went his own way. I think he got help. It's interesting because he said he got help from an old or ex-NASA employee. I found that quite interesting because I think he gave him about £1 million to go ahead and create the documentary and stuff like that. I found that quite intriguing. So I might ask him a wee bit more about that in the future. I mean, Bart's stuff on the moon is fascinating, but there's one thing he mentioned about the Chinese moon landing, the rover, whatever the bloody hell it is.
Yeah.
And he's under the impression that is on the moon, whereas I can't buy that. I simply cannot buy it. If they faked it then, they'll fake it now. You can be almost guaranteed of that. And I mean, then you've got India as well. Oh yeah, okay.
But they've
India.
They've landed on the dark side, so you can't see it. So
yeah,
it's definitely there. It's definitely there.
Did you see what Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson said?
No,
Neil
deGrasse Tyson. Yeah.
Yeah. He said basically they've went where the sun don't shine.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, you can fucking say that again.
Yeah, but the
Oh,
thing
man.
is, right, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right, also postulated that it would be possible to land a spacecraft on the surface of the sun. And he was queried about this by these scientists. That's fucking impossible. He goes, you've missed my cunning plan, you see, because we'll go at night.
Well, he's got a point, right? More chance of that than landing on the moon, to be fair. So he's quite the character, Neil deGrasse Tyson, man. And he gets, anytime he gets questioned about the narrative, he gets very irate. And he's like, "Argh!" He wants to strangle people. It's quite funny. He gets very upset. And I think that's always very telling. When someone's caught off guard or angry, their true character comes out, especially when they're angry. And you see that a lot with the astronauts. They get a bit pissed off, and then you begin to see a wee bit more of their true character. Look out for that. Anytime someone's angry, their true self will blurt out their true being. Interesting what Jerry said the other day about thoughts and how thoughts are maybe not your own. And I thought, fuck, what's he trying to say here? All my thoughts that I've ever had don't even belong to me. And he referred to a guy, I'm forgetting his name, work that a guy had done where he said basically all thoughts come from either heaven or hell. And I found that one, I found that hard to get my head around, to be honest. But maybe I'm just not getting it, to be honest. I think a lot of thoughts stem from your surroundings and in a kind of inner self, your soul, maybe, if you wanted to call it that. One thing he did say as well as I thought was interesting. No one can see a thought or a thought. No one can lay a thought on the ground or on the table and sequence it. And that kind of stuck in my mind for some reason, because I thought, yeah, well, they try and sequence just about every single bloody thing now, didn't they? But I think there's a lot to be said with the frequency and electronic sort of devices. I think that could play havoc with the brain. And today's world, we're in a soup of Wi-Fi and fucking electromagnetic fields. And of course, they want everybody in it, even the furthest away caves in Africa. No, we won't forget the poor wee African dude. No, he'll be getting, nope, forget about food. No, fucking, nope, not housing. Don't be stupid. It's Starlink internet that they want. They can eat Starlink for the rest of their life. And yeah, who would not want to have internet, right? Sure. Today they basically, sorry, on you go.
I was just going to say, and the other thing as well is, and it's very endemic in the sort of the Gen Z generation, probably also late millennials, but definitely Gen Z. They've all got what I call their thumb dummies. In other words, they've always got the bloody phone in their hands, and it's all, there's no sort of span of attention anymore, because one of the things I was looking at recently was it's like a music course about trailers, movie trailers. The people who make the music for movie trailers aren't the composers, because the film hasn't been finished by then, but they want to get these, what they call rushes out, and get the press information in the library parts of the film out to obviously start promoting, because you'll see some trailers and promotions 18 months before the film's release date. So, the score hasn't been finalized, or maybe it's not even started, because they still record the scores in proper sound stages with a real orchestra for the big budget films anyway. So you get a lot of people creating, it's it's a big business. They create trailers for different movies and games and all that. But I was listening to one, and the structure of a trailer is you get the sort of the build up, you get the sort of the main, the build up, the main theme, the crescendo, and that was what they call the three act part of the trailer. But now they're having to do what are called the cold starts. So essentially the first 6 seconds of a trailer, you'll see, this rapid action, Ghost Protocol 5, and then it's even got a little note saying the trailer's starting soon. But apparently, because we've got the thumb dummy generation who only manages to look at a TikTok video for like 7 or 8 seconds max before they get fed up and click onto something else, that's literally turning people into goldfish. Yeah. So you need to hook them in that first 6 seconds. Otherwise, before you even get to the trailer in, the proper trailer part, they've already swiped off. They don't even know what the film's about. So you've got this, what's called a cold start now at the start of all of these trailers. And it's certainly a trend I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 years where it's, it says, Mission Impossible trailer or new Star Wars trailer, and you get this really rapid action, lots going on, yeah, big cars, noisy sort of shit going on, and with a little note saying trailer starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, and that's all mad action. And then you go into the the start, the build up, the main part, and then the crescendo. And now they've got this 5 act system. So you've got the 3 main bits in the middle, but in order to hook the goldfish generation, they have to give this action-packed sort of first 6 seconds. And then right at the very end, after the credits on, it's called what's called the button. In other words, a little reminder when it comes up with, the release date and, a reminder of the name. Because by the time they've actually got through the main part of the trailer, they've probably forgotten about what the film is. So now they're having to literally they have to hook them in the first 6 seconds. At the end of the 1.5 minute, 2 minute trailer, they've probably forgotten what it's all about. So you need to remind them again at the end with the 5th act. So it's gone from a 3-act trailer to a 5-act trailer just because of the thumb dummy swipe generation. It's absolutely incredible.
Wow. Wait, what was you talking about again? I shouldn't laugh because, that is, I've been seeing that myself, and the fact that you're saying that is going on now. It's hard to picture where the future of visual creation in movies is going to be. Are they going to shorten films to how they originally were at the way back in John's day? A fucking 5-second clip with no sound, just a million frames, fast as anything. But I don't know. It's hard to see where it's going. But it's all kind of the TikTok 2-second next. And I know people personally who have said to me, yeah, that's what I do. I just fucking flick through the next one after the next one, and within like a few seconds, if they don't like it, they keep going. Nope, and then something catches their eye, and they'll watch it as long as it's not too long. And people tend to say, well, I've not got much time or stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's a good thing. I think they're training the brain to be not so trained, maybe, and sort of dumbed down to an extent.
Well, the thing is as well, because a lot of kids now, even young ones, because mine were, they were in high school before they were allowed to have a phone. And only then, because it was, like a safety aspect, because the school wasn't the one in the immediate vicinity. It was a bus journey away. That they went to because it was a better school. But even so, if the bus wasn't running or if you were a little bit concerned, you always knew where they were. Or that was the main thing, more of a contact thing rather than an entertainment device. But now you see kids 5-year-old or whatever, and then the teachers just sat there shaking their heads, wondering, why can't they concentrate for more than 2 seconds? I've put a sum up on the board, and I haven't even put the chalk on the board or the marker pen on the board, and they're fidgeting and shuffling around because they can't hold their attention. There's nothing they can do to hold the attention because they're that focused on 5-second dopamine hits, basically. And it's tragic because people talk about addictions of various kinds, whether it's drug addictions, alcohol addictions, things of that nature. But these phones, if you look at how addictive they are and the fact that people can't put them down, they're in a world of their own. They're classing, the continual dopamine hit and constant need to check social media is it's quite startling. Put it this way, right? If you cold turkeyed, you take a span of people from say 12 to 18, a cross-cut of section, cross-cut of areas of the country, cross-cut of boys and girls, all different types of bloody backgrounds, rich, poor, whatever, and you say you got 100 of them, and you cold turkeyed them, I reckon within, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but I reckon that within an hour, you'll have some kids freaking out saying, because they just wouldn't know what to do with themselves because they have to be constantly pushed on what they need to be seeing. They have no imagination anymore. But I reckon if not within 6 hours within the day, they'd all be crawling up the walls. If they were heavy, if they admitted on like a survey, yes, I'm a heavy device user, and you took their devices away from them, I reckon they would have withdrawal symptoms just as acute. Maybe it's not physically acute, but the mental acuteness of an addict. I really do.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Definitely. The younger you go down, the worse it probably is. It's like, I think even the guy Musk said, we're basically already part Android because now we're at a stage where people's mobile phones are an extension of themselves and stuck in their hand constantly. And I remember a guy that I knew, he practically lived his life on online, in particular on Snapchat, where you're messaging people and constantly sending videos. And I remember one time I was speaking to the guy and he wasn't even there, man. I was standing right beside him, in front of him, talking to him, and he's looking at his phone, and he's in a different world, a complete different world, man. I thought, fucking hell, he's not even here. He is not even here. He's standing right in front of me, and his mind is not here. He was gone into the metaverse. Have you ever seen anybody like that? Like they're not here?
Well, I'll give you one of the saddest things that I see is, if I'm out with a mate or whatever, we go to the pub, which admittedly, it's not a regular occurrence, especially after the old COVID bullshit. But even before the COVID thing, before they destroyed the pub atmosphere, we'd go in a pub and sit down. It could be a Spoons. It could be, like the local Spoons. They do good beer. I've got naught against the old Spoons. If you fancy a bite to eat, it's cheap and cheerful, and the beer is usually pretty good. So we sat in the Spoons, and when we're there, we're sat there putting the world to rights, and we don't really give two shakes of monkey's toss if some blue-haired, nose-ring, short-back and nasties is earwigging our conversation. They can just bugger off as far as we're concerned. But we'll be in there and we'll be at the bar, or we'll go to the bar or get a drink or whatever, and there'll be a gaggle of lads come in, and I'm talking lads, mid-20s up to say, mid to late 20s, so bevy sort of age lads, cracking on. Yeah, all right, mate, what are you having? I'll have this, I'll have one of them, I'll have a pint of that. Yeah, I'll have one of them, I'll have these. Get all the drinks, descend on the table, all sat round, and I'm sat there thinking, it's good seeing people out and about and having a bit of face-to-face contact instead of all this bullshit on fucking online bullshit. And they all sit down, and literally they sit down, they'll knock the head on, they'll take a sip of the pint, and then they all reach in their pockets, take out the devices, and they sat there, scroll, thumb dummy, scroll. And then one will pipe up and go, oh, I've got to send you this, I've got to send you this. And they'll send them a fucking joke from one phone to the other. Tell him the fucking joke. He's there. He's sat there. Do you know what I mean? It's outrageous. And they'll do that for 3 hours. And me and my mate, we just sat there saying, what a fucking sad state of affairs this is now. We haven't, well, I think my cause, if my phone will probably be left in a car or be left at home. I'm not even interested. And my mates, unless he's got his phone comes out if he rings his missus to say, come pick me up. That's literally all he uses it for. So we're having a bit chin on. And these lads, like I say, 26, 20, mid-20s to late 20s, sat around, they're having a drink. So every sort of half hour, I shout, what are you having? Oh, yeah. Get some crisps as well, So the usual thing. As soon as they sat back down again, thumb dummy. And at the end of 3 hours, they'll get up and say, right, I'm back up. That was a cracker. That was, yeah, we've got to see you on, if this is Friday night, right, see you on Sunday night. Yeah. And I thought, so you've come out, you've spent beer money, pub prices to sit with your 2 mates or your 3 mates, and you've not uttered a word between yourselves. You've just been on your fucking thumb dummies for 3 hours. What an absolute tragedy. I mean, you've made the effort to go out, but you might as well have just sat in the fucking house. What an absolute pointless thing that was.
Yeah. I've seen that as well quite a lot. Out and about, and well, anywhere I've went into, like Costa or whatever it may be, you can be guaranteed folk are going to be there. Yeah, but they're going to be sitting on the phone, on the tablet, on the laptop, no, not looking at anybody, not speaking to anybody. And I remember seeing it quite bad at work. And when I was at the substation in the canteen, I mean, it was like every other guy fucking on his phone, not speaking to anybody. Very rare that there would be a conversation sparked up. So it was like, I remember thinking, how I guess before mobile phones were used by everybody, there was like a banter that you would have at work, a sort of banter system, if you like, at lunch and at break, where I think someone mentioned it today, canteen, what do they call it again? Just canteen banter, basically. But all that sort of faded away. And of course, having a banter is frowned upon. Oh, it's too manly. It's too masculine. You can't be laughing at people. That's against the law. That's against the law now in Scotland, right? So all that, they seem to be wanting rid of it and just demonizing it. And they want people focused on their phone, and that's it. Nothing else.
Well, that was the whole point. As soon as COVID descended, the first target that they did was all pubs must shut. And like, well, hold on, that's a bit fucking quick, wasn't it? You haven't even got to a lot of the other shit first, like shutting down airports and ports and things. Why the pub? Well, they targeted the pubs where ordinary people would go, and they had to shut them down in the early parts because if, we always say it's a little trope that comes from a film called The Quiet Man, where the Catholic priest and the Protestant vicar go down to the pub, and they call it as we'll be going down to the pub now to talk a little treason. And there's a truer word spoken there, because there'll have been fellas or people going in the pub, ordinary Joes going in the pub, normally have a nice pint. The people like, well, my age and maybe even a bit older, and they'll have gone to the pub and they'll say, "Well, we don't know this crap." Well, I don't know. Well, can you explain this to me? Yeah, that doesn't seem right. And within 2 weeks through the pub network, because we know how pubs used to be the network of information, the unofficial network of information, it would have gone around the country straight away. Yeah, this is all a load of bullshit, right? So they had to nobble the pub messaging system, if you like, the pub network, because that was one of the things that the nudge units feared the most, that ordinary people would cotton on that they were nudging people and using Project Fear tactics rather than having any real evidence whatsoever. And they couldn't afford for that to get out in the earlier part. Absolutely insidious. It really is. It really is very, and Justin's right. Loosens your slackens your tongue, doesn't it? And I've had this conversation with people who bought the fucking Kool-Aid, and I've sat there in front of people who've been saying, "Oh, my mind, this and mind that," and all right then, mate. I tell you what. I will believe every single thing that you say right now if you can answer me 3 questions. The first question is this: how does virus? It's just a protein shell. It's one of the simplest life forms on the planet. It's not even as high up on the roster as a bacteria, so it's pretty low down. But it's clever enough to know when you're standing up or sitting down. Well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're an idiot going to the bar with your fucking nap on. But as soon as you got your drink, you come and sit down, take it off, because the virus won't get you when you're sitting down. All right then. Okay, well, if that's not the case, answer me this then. When did this protein shell, this virus, become a mathematics expert? Well, what the hell are you on about now? Like, you're just talking shite. That's what I get often. Well, if you're in a group of 5, you're all right, but 6 or more, poof, it's going to be on you like a raft. Oh man, that's not. It's not. Doesn't mean it like that. Okay, I believe you. Okay, well, answer me this final question. When did this protein shell become a culinary expert? Oh man, what the hell are you talking about now? Like, I said, well, how does it know the difference between a bag of scratchings and a 3-course meal? Because that was one of the rules. You can go in the pub as long as you're going in for a substantial meal. If you're only going in for a bag of crisps or a bag of scratchings, that doesn't cut the mustard. All right, so this virus is E gone Ronnie, is it? What a load of bullshit. And the pub network would have put that to bed literally within the 2 weeks that they made sure that they were shut at the beginning.
Yeah, the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Remember that? 2 weeks, folks. 2 weeks we'll flatten the curve, right? When you think back to all that, it was fucking mental, man. But you're forgetting, Sensum, talking about the nappy, the face nappy. Remember what happened? No one got the flu. That was because of the masks, seemingly. I mean, that was fucking comical.
Not so good on the old COVID though, was it? But cured flu. In fairness, Vladimir Putin cured COVID overnight, didn't he, when he invaded Ukraine?
It was gone, yeah. It was gone. You couldn't hear a peep about it anywhere.
And he definitely did blow up his own pipe.
Yeah. We've had quite a bit of activity here today, actually. I thought maybe fuck, don't say there's going to be something going down today. We had quite a bit of a military, the US military, Canadian military, and the local RAF quite active. Not so much at the moment, so I'm hoping nothing's going to happen. But I've always got this feeling that, they might escalate it to an extent. There's been a lot of talk lately about, they're going to pull another pandemic. I don't know. I can't see it.
That's what they're talking about. Lockdowns in the States, aren't they? So hopefully our American brethren will say, you know what? No chance. You've got no chance.
I hope so. They can lead the way, lead by example. I don't know. I just find it hard to sort of see anybody fucking bowing down to it so easily this time, especially given what's came out with the WhatsApp messages and I mean all that stuff coming out. It would have to be the hardcore sheeple now that bowed down to it, but I guess they can they would do what they done before: bribe, bully, blackmail. One way or another, they would make it happen. But I just the last time around, I kind of felt it coming in my spidey senses. This time, I feel I don't think. And I know a guy who sort of predicted that something would happen today. So I guess maybe something did. I'm unsure. Maybe I just don't know yet. But he thought it was going to be something quite big. And another guy he knows thought the same.
Earthquake, wasn't there? There was an earthquake in.
Yeah, I think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been quite common lately. So, I mean, anyone could have predicted, there's going to be an earthquake. So I think they've been regular. And I think there is an increase there as well. So I don't know what that would be down to, but I don't think it's a good thing. But I've always thought about the oil drilling and the fracking and stuff like that. I think that's got to have an effect on the planet somehow. They fucking suck out all this material seemingly and just fill it up with toxic water, as far as I'm aware. But so I don't know. It's I think this year we have seen an increase in sort of events relating to the earth shaking and fucking earthquakes, and you've got the wildfires as well. So I think we'll be glad to see the back of 2023 maybe. Has it been as bad as the previous 2 years? I don't know. What do we compare it to now? I don't know.
Well, it's obviously they've given us the pretense of we've got a little bit more freedom this year. However, everybody's that skint because of the depression. You know, we're in a depression, and we are literally in a depression. You know, the Treasury and you know, the Fed in America or whatever it is can say otherwise. You know, say, oh no, we're definitely not in a depression. Well, you've got rampant inflation, interest rates. You know, you've got the perfect storm of your money being worth the square root of fuck all, and yet your interest going through the roof. So things like your mortgage and that's going through the roof. And we're not in a depression. No, we're not. Why? Because we say you're not, but we definitely are. And all this nonsense of and the inflation rate of 7%, we know it's hard. No, because it's 20%. The reality is that it's 20%. And also, on a final note on the inflation side, I don't know about where you are, mate, but down here, last week the petrol prices were just below 50p. I think it was like 148 for petrol. It's now 153. So we're getting that, you know, weekly hike of 5 pence. So before COVID, it was £1.18. After COVID, it was £1.34. As soon as Putin went into Ukraine, it rocketed up to at a peak of a shock peak in places of the £2 litre. And now it's settling back, because like I say, it settled back to about 150 about 8 months after Putin invaded. So like coming up towards Christmas, and they gave us a little bit of respite, otherwise there would have been hell on. And my auntie was saying, like, you know, oh, isn't it good, you know, at least the price. No, it's not good, because at 150, it's still 30p more than what we should have been paying anyway. And then obviously they took it down to back down to the mid 130s for a little while, which is where it was just after COVID. But now you've got that 5 pence, you know, weekly or every fortnight, 5 pence little creep coming in on the fuel now. And that's always a massive tell when that starts happening.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a step back as well, you can see how it all falls into place, all very fitting in lockstep. Fuel goes up, cars are out the window, no one can get fuel, driving's bad, climate change. It's all kind of coming together in the sort of run up to 2030. Hooray, sustainability. And the course that I'm on, my HNC, it's going to be hard. It's quite complicated, but there is talk about, there's a module on it in regards to sustainability with the United Nations, and I'm gonna fucking struggle with that one, man. I'll struggle to keep my opinions to myself on it. But I'm also gonna make sure that I put my own view across to the lecturers, because if there's something I feel is not right or even sustainable, then I'm definitely going to say. And straight off the bat, if there's a decision to be made about horticulture in Scotland, then it should be made in fucking Scotland. Same goes with anywhere, not by some fucking junked up dude in a suit in Brussels or, I don't know, Geneva. It should be the people who work and live on the land. Surely that would be common sense, right? But no, not today. It's the agenda. It doesn't matter where or what. It's the UN, United Nations, no one gets left behind agenda, and they sell it like God's gift when it's kind of the complete opposite. And you can see that by the world that we're in today. But the level above me is the diploma, and that is pretty much all focused on UN sustainability, how to improve it. And it's also a lot to do with the evolution of plant life and animals, which is, I mean, by the sounds of it, they were putting it across as, well, it's set in stone. It's definitely true. And I'm sitting there scratching my head thinking, wait, this is a theory though, right? It's still theory. So there's going to be interesting conversations to be had there. I think I might get I don't think I'm going to be the teacher's pet, put it that way, but it depends what your lecturer, it depends where they stand on it. I know one or two of them are quite vocal on certain things they don't like. There's a big thing at the moment in horticulture in the UK where they want to ban peat in compost. I'm unsure if you know about that, but seemingly they're banning it being used by a certain date, and they've basically compiled a new compost, which is, in short, shite. It works, then it doesn't work, then it works, then it doesn't work. So it's trial and error with that. But I mean, getting rid of peat is in my view quite insane, to be honest. But net zero, it's all about net zero. But there's one guy at the college, he's a lecturer, and he's got his own business as well, seemingly quite, I think, talking maybe millionaire. So what he's doing at the bloody college, I don't know, but there you go. Takes all sorts, I suppose, but he's not happy because I think he's going to lose money in trying to change everything to peat free. So they've definitely got a problem with poor Pete. He's in for it, right? So I don't know if anybody knows much about that, but I'll try and keep people up to date on the course that I'm doing and try and let you in on how it goes. But I'm still, like I said at the start, there's a lot in regards to the chemistry of plants, the biology, the photosynthesis, and all that shenanigans that no one wants to know about. Let's face it. It can be hard to sell the subject of plants and horticulture itself, but when you get into it and you look at it in a bigger extent than just average, you begin to realize that it's fascinating. There is so much to it that can grab your attention. So I think perception maybe needs to change there in education, where people know that a plant is a lot more than just something that looks nice on a fucking windowsill. There's medicinal purposes. There's so much benefits to it, not just to the plant, but growing it in regards to the mental benefits that come from it. The therapeutic horticulture, which is becoming quite big as well. I even know a guy on the course who he is ex-military, war veteran, suffered from PTSD, yeah. And part of his recovery, they sent him on a 2-week horticulture plant growing sort of course, and he said it basically changed his life. And I think more focus on that. At the college, they were saying, well, we need a kind of Jamie Oliver of horticulture, or a Heston Blumenthal. Do you know, when they sort of burst on the scene, everyone wanted to eat a certain way or get involved with cooking. So they're looking for that, but it's already kind of taken off on its own. I mean, it's a massive trade, but it's growing even bigger, even today. So I think there's great potential in it in so many ways. So I'm hoping to maybe expand on that a bit more in the future, but I am conscious of the time as well. I said 2 hours and I've went a bit over, so I'm going to have to send. How much did we agree on, Sensum? I'm going to have to send you 20 shillings. We still work in shilling up here, so
it's £1 and 5 pence, I think. We agreed on a guinea.
Cool. We'll go with that, right? It's been great. Quite an interesting one. There's, again, when it comes to 9/11, there's so much to get into. But we're going to have to set up a stream with yourself in the future, if you're up for that. Maybe you've had enough after tonight.
No, mate, like I say, I'll be your dusty bin anytime you need one.
The ever reliable Sensum.
Yeah, but it's definitely been good, and I thoroughly enjoyed the chat we had with Jerry. I mean, like I say, you just, once again, you'd say this is madness, but then you say, well, it can't. And it's documented. He's got tapes of the conversations and audited conversations with those guys. And it's just like, well, it can't be all of them. Do you know what I mean? If it was one, like the one-star pupil that, oh, look, I'm proving it, which is pretty much all the evidence that the regime does. Look, on the back of a fag packet in France in 1990, they said it's 1.5 degrees. What was the science behind that? Shut up. Trust the science. Because literally what it was, all this bullshit we're going through now, when they created Agenda 21 in Paris in the 90s, some bloke just randomly scrawled on the back of a fag packet in Paris at the Paris Climate Accord, oh yeah, 1.5 degrees. Right, that's it. Did it. That's the world thing. We don't realise that, talking about CO2, your carbon footprint, but you're also decimating large swaths of tree and wooded area to put your fake fans on that don't particularly work very well. Just out of interest, do you know what the makeup of CO2 is? It happens to be, a single carbon molecule to 2 oxygen molecules. And if you've got a plant, it loves a bit of CO2. And do you know what it gives back? That lovely oxygen. Isn't it wonderful how that works? Shut up, bigot.
Racist. That's a conspiracy theory now.
I'll tell you something now. Wouldn't put it past these evil bar stewards if they try to genetically modify plants without stomata so that they couldn't process CO2 and they had to rely on some artificial form of sustenance in order to grow them. That's how evil I reckon these bastards are. I really do.
Yeah, I think you could be right. I would not rule that out there, to be honest. They're big on the plant sequencing, and trying to find a new breed of plant is, there's a lot of money in that. You can get the rights to it, breeding rights it would be. There's a plant, well, it's not a plant, it's a tree. It's like, sorbus tree, it's got the berries on it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's one, I'm sure it's in that family, but it's called Rothschild Rothschild anus, or something like that. Honest to God. It's fucking comical, man. And when we were looking at it, I was like, wait, what? Rothschild anus? Honestly, I was like, fuck, I was in stitches, man. But
I was like the Latin name of, I think I've told you this before when you said, horticulture is the white bramble, also known as Rubus cockburnianus.
That's right. We covered that as well, and I was like, wait, what? And I was laughing, and I'm meant to be the mature student. I'm at the back of the class, sniggering. And someone actually picked these names as well, which is quite funny. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, but I can't see me ever getting into a job where there's plant DNA sequencing and trying to find a new breed of plant. I can't foresee it, but I do want to know as much about it as I can. Crop propagation and the therapeutic side of it is probably where I'll probably end up something more simple. The more simple, the better for me. But if I can learn as much as I can, I'll feel in a better place to go ahead with anything plant focused. And I'm unsure at the moment, but I'll take it a day at a time. And the main thing at the moment is passing the course, or completing it to begin with, but the passing it would help. And I did pass level 6 this past term, and I got my letter in regards to going to graduation, but I didn't go. I can't go, man. I'm not putting on the gown and the hat, and just I'm not doing it. So I declined graduation.
You'll have to do it at least once, just to say that you've been there and done that.
Yeah, well, my wife was a bit like, yeah, you should go, and I thought, I'll be fucking. There'll be a photo of me, and they'll see he's in the society, making the triangle sign with a hand in the pocket.
And a little baby Triffid, first prize.
So I thought, you know what? It's you can't decline it anyway. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but if I can pass my HNC, I might.
Yeah.
Because I reckon I'll call it a day at that. Going on to do the diploma, more focused on UN and evolution, is maybe where I'll draw the line. I'm more interested in just growing plants, to be honest.
If you don't, you'll never get that job with Yuval Harari at the UF, mate. If you don't.
Yeah. Well, you never know. It's a small world, right?
Yeah. Hokey cokey, mate. I know you've got your little doggies are probably waiting to go out.
Yeah, he's sitting right at my feet at the moment. He's like itching. I've still to go to the shop as well. But luckily the Indians, we close anytime. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it's meant to be 24 hours as well, but it's not. They shut at like 1 o'clock, depending on how busy. But they're taking over so many businesses here. The Indians, it's like, fucking hell. Has there been a problem in India? Have they all been kicked out? Honestly, it's insane. I'm unsure what to make of it, but the future, right? That's the future. A mixed race community is what they want here by the looks of it. We've got the immigrants in the hotel. We've got the Syrians, the Afghans. the whole lot coming over. I mean, people had an issue when it was the Polish and the fucking Romanians, but they don't seem to have an issue now somehow, which is a bit strange, but there you go. They don't want to be seen as being racist or hateful, but they would have every right to be concerned, in my view, but that's a whole other story, I guess. Maybe we can get into that in the future.
Yeah, probably. Well, immigration is always the gift, legal and illegal is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? I mean, there's no end in sight, unfortunately. But
yeah,
but there you go. But I'll just say once again in the chat to our American cousins that we drifted off topic a little bit at the end there, but we covered, I think, pretty much what we wanted to. But whether or not, like I say, never forget the fact, whether or not, whatever the mechanism was and whoever was responsible, 3,000 people lost their lives, 6,000 injured, and, countless tens of thousands people lives destroyed by those events. So like I say, it doesn't matter who, well, it does matter, but what I'm saying is from a humanist perspective, however it happened, whoever was responsible, you can't take away that loss, and it was palpable. I'd like to say I remember it very, very well, those events, and it's no less shocking today, even though we're now questioning the prescribed narratives, if that makes sense. But thanks for having me on, mate. I was glad to come on, and hopefully I haven't been a damp squib in the absence of Scott's armour. But thanks again, mate.
Nah, it's been great. Hopefully Scott's is okay, and we'll get Scott's on another time and get a catch up then. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. What I'll do is I'll take you out, and then I'll play a short tune, and then we'll get a wee catch up in the green room, right? And we can smoke the bong and smoke the doobies, like the rock stars. So thanks again, Sensum, and we'll definitely arrange something for the future. So that was Sensum. Fantastic. One of a kind. I've got a lot of time for Sensum. So I'll be more than happy to have him on again. It's a pity Scott's never turned up, I'm sure. I think he had issues with his technology, and I know what that can be like. Fuck, I'm an expert at that. So yeah, there's not a problem there. More than happy to get Scott's on again. So thank you. I tried to get as many comments as I could, but I'm hopeless. So no surprise there. We'll probably get into 9/11 again at some point. Will we do it again next year on 9/11? I don't know. Who knows, right? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I will say thank you to whoever's still there at the bottom. Robert, good to see Rob in the hood. Thank you very much. The beautiful Justine, a pleasure to see you. I hope you're doing well, you and your family. Who else did I see? My son, Rich, in the hood. Good to see you. I hope you're okay. I hope you're behaving, right? My long lost son, of course. Linda, great to see Linda Hunter. I noticed Linda said you hadn't heard about Bill Cooper. So you know what you're going to be listening to tonight then, right? You'll have to search up Bill Cooper, Hour of the Time download, and you should find Bill Cooper episodes. Well, you should at least, but Google, being Google, you might have to look a bit harder. But I certainly recommend Bill Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, and the episodes that he done, Hour of the Time. I think he done hundreds of episodes since from about 1992 up until 2001. So there is a lot. And of course, you never agree with someone on every single topic, but you're going to agree on quite a lot with Bill Cooper. for me, Bill Cooper's best work is on secret societies, Freemasons, the hidden occult. That's where, you won't. Bill covered it better than anybody ever has, in my view, anyway, right? So I better not keep sense him waiting, or he'll be running away. So thank you, Gaynor. Great to see you. Carmel as well. A pleasure to see you. I hope you're behaving. Wendy B in the hood. Good to see you. Hazdak. Fantastic. Gaynor as well. And I have to tell Gaynor, her membership to Talbanoki, similar to our brother Sensum, probably got cancelled or put on pause because, shock horror, we got demonetized. Evil, harmful, hateful channel. You'll get no money. The pennies that we got are, they're gone. But hey, that's life, right? But not as we know it. So great to see Gaynor, and thank you for being a member. I don't know if you'll be able to be one ever again, but hey, you were one. So thank you very much to you. Who else did I see? Ian as well. Thank you very much, Ian, for jumping in. So, like I always say, do not live in fear, right? Just, hey, don't do it. And like I always say, no matter what, no matter where, do not comply. And that is about it. Bye-bye.
Don't nobody know my troubles but God. Don't nobody know my troubles but God. Oh Lord, they know trouble so hard. Oh Lord, they know trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my troubles but God. Don't nobody know my troubles but God. Yes, I went down the other day. My soul was happy with the street on me. I went down the other day. My soul was happy with the street on me. Oh Lord, they know trouble so hard. Oh Lord, they know trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my troubles but God. Don't nobody know my troubles but God. And I went up that hill again today. My soul was happy with the state of me. But I went to my room and did stay long. Looked at the bed and my brother was there. Oh Lord, they know trouble so hard. Oh Lord, they know trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my troubles but God. Don't nobody know my troubles but God.
We got to get down, Eagle. Distance, tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.